So, Valeria and Barbara, thank you for taking the time today. For the folks that are on, Barbara and Valeria are the owners and operators of Revo Books. Um, they are daughters to Milwaukee and its South Side and sisters to each other. They come from a working class, immigrant, first generation background, and they started Revo Books. It's been over a year. I think it started in March of 2021. Um, and they started it as a way to bring the books that kind of changed their lives into the lives of the people here in Wisconsin. And they've already introduced over 3,500 Latinx books to families all across Wisconsin, which is incredible. So I kind of just want to start it off with, how was it growing up on the South Side for both of you? What was that like?
It was I got into some trouble as a child. Right, like riding my bike all over the city, and I'd go to my friend's house, and I don't think my parents realized how far I was going on my little bike. Um, and it was nice, right? Like you felt safe. We felt, we really did feel like in community. And we grew up in the neighborhood is called Muskego Way now. Um, but it was good. It was very tight knit. Where we grew up, and we all like knew each other. We had our corner store that we'd always go to. So yeah, and there were a couple of positive places, or like places that we could go hang out at, like the Christian Center and like Journey House and things like that, that were in the same area that we were in, um, that we showed up to a couple times, and we'd go to the UCC and things like that. But there wasn't a bookstore growing up that we like regularly visit. How about you, Val?
I mean, I would say, yeah, generally, like, I share the same experience of, we, I didn't at that point in time, I think, even think about like Latinos in literature, and just kind of accept it as is what was presented to us in schools. And so I think being part of the South Side, maybe in its moment, I didn't like think of myself as like a South Sider, but now when thinking back, I'm like, yeah, hell yeah, like I'm definitely a South Sider. And it wasn't an identity in the way that I feel like it is now, or in the way that people think of like Milwaukee. They think about a lot of South Side, monuments, and like they think about the Basilica, they think about, the clock, they think about the domes. And so now thinking back, I'm like, yeah, like we lived in like a, a place that had like a heart of Milwaukee. And so I think it's really fulfilling to carry that with us as we build La Revo Books.
Do you have a favorite restaurant on the South Side? Or
Mm,
maybe something that like is close to your heart, that feels comforting and homey.
I mean, I feel like Los Comales has a place in my heart forever. Like, just because it was the place that I felt like was connected to like a larger network of taquerias. Like, I remember we would like take trips to Chicago, and we're like, they have a Los Comales here too. Like, we're part of like the larger Latino network. Like, Milwaukee is not, no es nada, right? It's something. And so other like places I think about, other restaurants. I don't know. It's hard for me to pick them because no one to me can compete with my dad's cooking. So for me, it's like la birria que hace mi papá and the tacos that he makes on the grill in the back. So definitely, I would say Restaurante Refugio Cerda.
Yeah, for sure.
Awesome. So I first, before I ask a little bit about who is Barbie the Book Fairy, I wanted to ask a little bit about, Barbie the Book Fairy places books in certain neighborhoods, but who is Barbie the Book Fairy? And I
Yeah,
guess.
so Barbie the Book Fairy is a community program, that was kind of, it was, I don't even know so it's La Revo's sister organization, as we call it. And that it feels like that's where kind of our book journey started. You know, we were looking for something to do during the pandemic with like me and my girls, my daughters. And we were collecting used books and putting them inside of the free little libraries. And one day, you know, I decided to apply for a grant to buy some new books. And I wanted to focus the efforts on buying Black and Brown literature to refill the free little libraries. So I wanted to, you know, I wanted to make sure that, you know, folks that were visiting the little libraries could find nice books, new books that were written by people like them for people like them. So of course, you know, I'm on the south side, and you know, our we're not a minority anymore, right? And so yeah, so I applied. I applied for a grant. My sister helped me, and we were looking for this list of books, and we you know we contacted, you know, another bookstore that was like really awesome and helped us find these books, but it wasn't. We didn't have the opportunity to just walk into a bookstore and say, this is the book I want, this is the book I want, this one, and like pick through them. We had to specially order them. So we had to specially order these books. And then that's when Valeria was like, bro, we should open up a bookstore. And I'm like, you can do it. Like, that's okay. You can do it. But then, right, like that's kind of like where that started, right? Like, there we knew that there wasn't a place where we could find like Latinx literature, just, you know, walking into a place and grabbing it. And then that is really how La Revo Books was born. What Valeria is like awesome at like executing projects. So she came over to my house and was like, we're gonna plan this bookstore out. Brought her laptop, and we started creating a plan. And I would say definitely Barbie the Book Fairy was one of the ways, or one of the app, like the events, or like the things that happen in our lives that, you know, really made this bookstore happen.
How hard is it to source these books and make it accessible? Because like you mentioned, it is, you don't see the book selection that you have on La Revo Books on your website. Those, you can't, you know, walk into local books. You don't usually find those at local bookstores in Milwaukee. So how hard is that for you to, you know, not only find them, but you know, giving that at a offering it to the community and making it accessible?
It's difficult because once you start to narrow down your search of like, I need books that are bilingual, that are written by a Latino author, that are priced at this area, and that are available to me in the Midwest. Once you start to get narrow, that list starts to get really, really small. So there is some risks we have to take in getting some books that maybe we have a smaller selection, but that's because that's what's available. You know, I'll give you a really good example. Children's books are really difficult to source at an affordable price, and what's new. And just in general, the book industry, what they always release is hardcovers first, which means that price is going to be in your high 20s. And for children's, it's in your high teens. And, you know, it's very easy to like put that book down when in reality, like, it's very relevant, it's very new, but as much as you want it, you know, you might, some people just might put it down. And so for us, like, we also don't see ourselves in saying no to people. So we work really hard to get to yes, and we work really hard to get that book out, whether that means we lose a few dollars. Like, that's okay with us because we know that it's going home with someone. And then we also really lean on our supporters who buy the things at full price, right? So people who are able to buy things at full price, just know that like at some point in time, we are, you know, giving away a few books at, you know, a cost that doesn't benefit us. But like for us, the reward doesn't come there. The reward comes in getting it to a household that hasn't seen it before, that wants it, that needs it.
So for folks that don't know, La Revo is short for La Revolución. And, you know, it translates to the revolution. And I don't want to, I know different folks have asked you what the name means, but I want to know what it means to you specifically. Like, why name it La Revo?
So La Revo Books, I think we spent a good couple of weeks trying to think of a name that fit us, that was like not only just like important to like our community, but important like to us. And so at the time, you know, we were seeing a lot of people standing up, fighting back against police brutality, against, you know, unjust things that were like happening and attacking our communities. You know, the summer of 2020 and 2021 were very turbulent, active times for our community. And so we also saw it as a way that we could lift up what our people are fighting for. But it's also very personal in the sense that we thought about who inspires us to stand up and to be revolutionary. And we, at the time, both of our grandmothers had just passed from COVID. And I think the creation of La Revo Books was a way that we were mourning as well. And we drew a source of inspiration and power from their passing, because we thought a lot, really thought back to how they lived their own personal revolutions. Our paternal grandmother, you know, she couldn't read or write very well, but she lived a full, thriving life. You know, despite that, our maternal grandmother was disabled her whole lifetime. And so she lived her own revolution by researching her genealogy by just using a phone book. And so I think it was a way for us to honor them and also honor our community and what they were fighting against and what they had been going through. And, you know, things, you know, even boiling down to the colors that we decided to use in our logo are very tied to Jalisco, which is where we're from in Mexico. You know, el color del agave, el color de la tierra colorada. Like, it's very personal, and we like thought about everything from A to Z. So when we talk about La Revo Books as a brand, we're talking and uplifting our story, and we're also like uplifting the stories of many other people who like haven't had the chance to get it out there. What do you want to add?
Oh, geez. Well, you said a lot. But just one thing is like, in addition to like uplifting, you know, our stories, is like we want to encourage folks to, you know, start, you know, learning about like your own stories. And, you know, when you learn about things that, you know, happened, you know, in your culture or in your family, or all of these things that create, you know, make up like our identities and things like that. And that, like, that in itself is like very revolutionary. So it's like that personal revolution as well. You kind of said that, but yeah, it's like we just want to encourage folks, you know, to, you know, step into that, like, you know, don't be afraid to ask questions and to, you know, connect with each other and to connect with us, because we're all, you know, we're all here together, right? We're all, you know, dealing with the same things. You know, this week is Banned Books Week, and what that means is, you know, this is a way that other, you know, indie booksellers and like people that are, you know, related to books are kind of fighting back against against you know, the like the war on like literature, you know, and banning important books in schools and at the state level, with banning like critical race theory and things like that. So you know, even the bandolier like in our logo is like, it's for like it means to like just be protective, or, you know, protected and like defensive, and like really trying to protect our stories, because banning books has not been just something that's happening recently, right? We talk a lot about how our books were burned, and banning, you know, burning books, you know, has always you know, been used as like an act of violence against our people. So this is a way that we're, you know, standing up and really uplifting our stories and making sure that that's making sure that we're, you know, maintaining that resilience that our ancestors did.
It does feel like you've sparked a revolution of sorts, because we've seen this like resurgence of locally owned bookstores across the city. They're, rooted MKE and Niche Book Bar and Lion's Tooth. But now the South Side has the two of you. Do you feel like you carry that responsibility with you? Like, is that something that you're aware of, that you're like carrying the South Side pride and bringing these books that maybe make you guys unique? Like, what does that responsibility feel like?
I think we accept and we carry that responsibility with us, because I think it's opening a business is one barrier, and then be a first-time book owner that has a very unique spin on. We're a non-traditional bookstore, so to speak. We're one of some bookstores across the country that are a pop-up model, so we're not traditional. And so part of that makes us also very different, and also yet again marginalizes us within a community. And so we carry and we accept the responsibility, and at the same time, because of that, we have to be really creative in our approach. We have to be very innovative in the way that we engage folks, and sometimes we have to fight against like those status quo norm of like, well, you're not a real bookstore because you don't have a storefront. And so there's also a piece that like we're fighting like hell to be able to keep our doors open, and also like we welcome that challenge as well, because we don't back down. Like, it's not in our nature to turn away and like not accept this challenge, but we carry it and we do it with lots of love.
Yeah, and I feel like people shouldn't lock you into that South Side, that boundary, because you offer books in other languages. You offer books that are like unapologetically for like Black, Brown, and Indigenous folks. And that, I think those boundaries extend beyond the South Side, right?
We're traveling. Like, we were just invited to Illinois. I'm like, Illinois. So we are traveling, we have traveled to Madison and things like that. So our reach is definitely extending, and we are growing. We did hire some booksellers that, we had a week that we had 8 events booked. So
in 4 days,
like, we really needed the help, and we're expanding in little ways. But nonetheless, like, we are growing and we're covering a lot of ground and getting a lot of books out there. And it brings me a lot of joy when I see folks like posting pictures of their libros, and because I just like, oh, hey, where'd you get that book from? Like, we know it was us. Because, when you shop on Amazon or you shop at these like large bookstores, these corporate, corporate bookstores, it's like you have to know what you're finding. You have to know what you're looking for. You got to search up the title, and like Revo Books will curates our bookshelves, and you can come and kind of browse through self-help and history and things like that. And you don't have to do all of that research to find what you're looking for, because we're here and we really enjoy providing you all with like a wide range of genres and topics and things like that. Because we don't just write history, like, right? Latino, Latinx authors, we're writing poetry, we're writing self-help books, we're making journals, we're writing children's books. Like, we cover so much, and we've been exposed to very little.
I've seen you guys talk about your family involved in the business. What does that feel like to keep it in the family and have your kids and your parents and involved? And I remember, I don't remember the interview that you guys gave, but you also talked about your dad saying that Mexican people don't read, or like Latino people don't read. Like, could you tell me, well, one, how does it feel to keep it in the family and have the love of your family surround you? But also, has your dad changed his opinion on that? Like, what does he think now that he kind of sees your books out there?
Yeah, he has absolutely changed his opinion. Like, he went to a pop-up one time and he was like, I cannot believe how many people buy books. And I'm like, hello. He's like, no lo puedo creer. Like, un libro? Un libro. And I'm like, yes, un libro. Like,
I and then it came to the point where then he actually started to help us sell books, and like people would walk in and he'd be like, "Esa sí está buena," and like he was like making sales. I'm like, wow, like I'm glad we changed your mind, but like on a very real note, like also part of La Revo Books' mission is to help reinvent the relationship people have with literature, specifically Latinos, because sometimes like if you come from a family that's working class, poor, then where's there is no disposable income that you can buy books from. You either get, what's at the library, which you can now, we're very grateful for Milwaukee Public Library and all the selection they're able to offer. I feel like a lot of the books we have, they also have. So shout out to them. But, there is some people who maybe just won't even go, won't think of that. And so I think part of it is reinventing and changing that relationship to reading and literature, because sometimes, you go to school, you read these books about, white folks and white history and United States history that sometimes doesn't paint the picture of what actually happened. And you're like, well, this is it. Is this like the story? This is what literature is? Or you go to a big box store and the books they have are like Huckleberry Finn in Spanish and no one wants to read that. And so I just, I think it's important that one, like the work does start at home and we do have to like work through the relationship our parents have to reading. And also we're doing that for other families. So I think one of our biggest purchases that we actually got from authors in Mexico was someone from my dad's hometown that told the story about San Jose, and we gave him the book and we kind of were reading it out loud, and 5 minutes in we were all sobbing. And so I think people feeling that emotional connection to what they're reading has like a change, it changes something, it changes the game. And we'd like to think that one of our key audiences are people who don't consider themselves readers,
right.
People who walk down our table like, I don't read, I'm not a reader. But well,
You're not reading the right
you're
thing.
not reading the right thing. You might not be reading what we're offering. And so I think like on a serious note, like it is really reinventing a relationship and showing people that there's more out there than maybe what you traditionally think as like reading. And audiobooks are reading too, right? Like reading articles that you find on Facebook is reading too. And so sometimes like we don't always like to think of that. And like some people might want to downplay like what that means, but that's the reality. Is literature comes in all shapes and sizes and forms, and it's not always a physical book.
We've been storytelling forever, right? Like who sits down in the morning, right? Drinks your coffee and then you're talking to your tia, it's chisme. Like we've been gossiping, we've been storytelling, like it's it's part of our culture. Like we story tell. We tell so much, like, so it's just it's like Valeria said, it's definitely reinventing that relationship and realizing that, we're always learning, and we're always learning, period.
By the way, you're getting love in the chat, and I think that's a testament to you being out in the community and going to pop-ups and going to different events and being very visible. So just wanted to note that. And I kind of want to, the last question is, I just kind of wanted to open it up to you both. If you have anything else to add, you want people to know about La Revo, or whatever else work you're working on right now in the community. Just wanted to open it up to either one of you or both of you.
Sunday, right? We have Sunday.
Yes, so we have a pop-up on Sunday. We are slowing down just a little bit.
It's getting cold.
Yeah, it's getting a little cold to pop up, and hopefully we'll be moving to indoor venues and get invited to all them indoor markets. But we are going to be at Harbor Fest on Sunday, and we will be working with an author, Elia Ana Hill, because she's a local author and illustrator, and she is publishing her first book with Little Libros, and it's called The No Boy. So we are working on logistics for that event. So we want to have a book signing and invite people, all people, to come and support Elia. at her event, whether you have children or not. She's a local author and illustrator that we really want to uplift. And we will be working with Rooted MKE on that event, and also hoping to host an event in Espanol. So that's kind of like what we have on our to-do list. Any other events or stuff that we've missed?
Not that I could think of now, but we normally post these up on our Facebook and Instagram, so you will always see it on there. And we also send them out through email, so make sure you go to larevobooks.com and enter your email to be a part of our listserv and to get all the event invites, the scoop. Yeah.
Great. Thank you both. Muchas gracias for taking the time. I really appreciate it. And it was so nice to see you both, talk with you.
Thank
All
you.
right.
Yeah, thank you for having us. So good talking to you.
Take care. Bye. Adios.
All right. Bye.